you know that I am recording this class so that when the class is over, if you'd like, you can receive a copy of it. And let's get started. So we do have some other people who have signed up for the class. They're not currently present, but I'm not going to I'm not going to wait for them. It's already a couple of minutes past start time, and the fact that the two of you are here, you shouldn't be punished for being on time. So let's get started. This is the advanced class. The advanced class basically is a class for those people who are already familiar with the day-to-day usage of the software. You know, you book appointments, you process sales, you close your drawer at the end of the night, things like that. However, there are features that you may not be aware of, and so that's what this class is going to be covering. Some of the more common features that regular users are unaware of, okay? So the first thing that we're going to talk about in this advanced class is email. So now there's a lot of different ways to email, and if you were talking about email marketing, if you were talking about automated marketing or manual marketing through email, if you were talking about appointment confirmations and reminders, etc., that's going to be in our Darcy marketing class. But in this case, what I'm going to be talking about is direct emails to your staff and or your customers. So first things first. Even though this is not a Darcy marketing class, I want you to be aware that in order for your emails to work, your Darcy system must be up and running. Not trying to sell you anything. Darcy is part of your software already, but it needs to be up and running because Darcy is what handles your emails throughout the software. So let's talk first about staff emails. We'll go to Setup, and then from Setup, we'll select our operator files. Now, of course, in your software, it may say something different. It could say stylist files, esthetician files, therapist files, artist files, whatever it may be. Now, once you have clicked on your operator files, you'll be given a list of your staff. If I click on a member of my staff, I have an email address field. If you do not have an email in this email address field, what I'm about to show you is not going to work. On the right-hand side, there's an email button. I can click that button, and it will automatically create an email system for me where I can type in a subject and a message and hit send. This will go directly to Christian because it is Christian's file that I'm in. However, no matter whose file you go into, you could also have this button that says Select All. When you click that button, Select All, it will put in all of the email addresses for every member of your staff. So now I can put in a subject, put in a message, and maybe now it says something like, don't forget Friday's meeting on blah, blah, blah at 12 noon. And you're sending it out to all staff members. So that's one place that you could do it. Email, subject, message, send, and it goes directly to your particular staff member, or email, subject, message, and select all, and it will go to everyone, a corporate-wide email, in other words. All right. Now, if I was in the appointment book, I can do the very same thing. I can right-click on any one of my staff members. Perhaps Kathy, I need to contact her because Allison here came in and something different has occurred. So I right-click and I select email. Same exact field comes up. I type my subject, I type my message to let them know Allison said blah, 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 blah. I wanted you to know that before her appointment today, and send. Again, though, it's exactly the same screen, so I could have clicked on any one of my staff members, gone to email, and written my subject, written my message, and once again hit Select All. So you don't have to do that from the Operator ID window. You can also do it from here, okay? And that is staff emailing. Any questions on that? Again, that does not include your staff getting automatic emails for when you book or unbook or reschedule for them, or at the end of the night, the system emailing them their schedule for the following day. Those types of things you learn in the Darcy class. Okay, if there doesn't appear to be any questions on that portion of it, so moving on. The next thing we're going to talk about then is the client email. So I can pull up a customer like Michelle Babcock here. Again, I need to have her email address in the email field. And then with the customer pulled up, I can select email. Again, type in my subject, type in my message, and send. Now, this one's a little bit different. With the one that I created for my staff, remember, I could hit a select all and choose everybody. you're not going to be doing this in a client email. And this is specifically to the client. Also, when I am sending an email directly to my staff, it is just the verbiage. However, when I send it to my customer, it has my logo and my social networking icons on it. So it looks nice. With your staff, doesn't need to look so nice. You want it to go out immediately. No artwork. With your client, the artwork is there. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, how did that artwork get there? Again, that's part of the Darcy class. When you set up Darcy, you not only upload your logo, but you also put in your URLs for all of your social networking icons. So any emails that Darcy sends out will include those as long as they're going to your customers. All right. Any questions on that before I continue? Okay, I take it no questions. And the next thing that I'm going to be talking about is social analytics. Again, something that most people are unfamiliar with. I'm going to select reports. And from reports, I'm going to select graphs. Under graphs, I have this option, social analytics. So we'll click on that. Now, in this case, for account number 15811, I don't have my social analytics. And so it says you are not authorized for this service. However, I do have one that I have already created. So I'm going to show you what it could look like once you have it set up. Again, not trying to sell you anything. This is part of your software, but it must be set up, so you must request it. So you would contact your salesperson and let them know that this is something you want, and they'll be able to email you the information necessary for us to create this for you. Once it's created, you click that button, and this window will come up. It is brought to you by a third-party company called Social Beautify, and there's a whole lot of great things that they can do for you, but this is brought to you by them for free. And this is going to be able to communicate with your Facebook and your Twitter and things like that. And it will give you the demographics that you need. It'll give you essentially your Google Analytics all tied up into one nice little place. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to read all of this right now, but that's certainly something that you can learn. But I want you to be aware that it exists in the software. And a lot of people do not know that that exists in the software. Okay, next thing that we want to talk about. We're going to be talking about the activity button in inventory. When you go into a product in inventory, it doesn't matter what that product is. I'm going to pull up my Just an All-in-One shampoo here. In my Just an All-in-One shampoo, I've got all sorts of different information, and you're probably familiar with this because you have probably set up your inventory so that you can sell product through your point of sale. To learn how to set up inventory, by the way, you do that in your very first class, which is known as a data entry setup class. Those are not classes like this. These are one-on-one when you first get the software. If you need a data entry setup class and you have, you're not new to the software, you can go ahead and call our 800 number and schedule that with the trainer. Okay, but what I want to talk about now is activity. You click on activity, and that will bring up all of the activity on this particular product. Now, I want you to notice down here I have all these question marks where it says by whom, but up here I've got all of these names under by whom. Well, really what's going on here is that when you were using this originally, we had our password protection set up, which means that in order to void a PO or to do a physical count or to check on in-salon use, etc., it required a password. That way the software knows who did it, and that's why the name is there, Abigail, Christian, etc., Debbie, etc. However, we turned off password protection after that, and so everything that's been done since then has a question mark next to it, because if you're not using password protection, the software can't tell you who did what, okay? Now, the activity right now I've got set on all. If I click on received only, then these are purchase orders that were created for this particular product, and those purchase orders were received. If I have sales only, this is all of the sales ever done on that product. The transaction numbers, the dates, if you had password protection, who made the sale, etc. Returns, if there were merchandise returns done on this product. And any manual adjustments that you had to do on this product. And then, of course, all includes everything. In other words, everything that's been done with this product since the day it was originally added to your system. That's what the activity button is going to be able to show you. We'll go ahead and close that. Okay? The next thing that we're going to be talking about, unless there are any questions on the activity button. All right. And by the way, if I say, hey, there's no questions, and I move on to something else, but you're just not finished typing, just keep typing and hit send, and we'll go back even if we've already passed it, so don't worry about that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the month view screen. What exactly is the month view screen? You're probably familiar with day view screen. This is what your day view screen might look like with your staff members and appointments, etc. And of course, the week view screen, which might look something like this, where you've got up to 2 weeks on a single screen. You can have up to a full 30 days on a single screen through the week view. But essentially what this is today plus 2 weeks. That's your week view screen for a particular person. So what is the month view screen and how do I get to it? There's lots of different ways. First, I can go to appointments from the main menu and select month view. And when I do that, it brings up my month view screen. Also, if I was in the appointment book, I could have chosen month view and there's that same screen. And then finally, if I was in sales, I can go to book appointments, choose month view, and there it is again. Well, how does it work? You might think that, some people look at this and say, well, I'm never going to use that because I use the day view screen or I use the week view screen. It's very easy for me, so this is not something that I would use. However, once you learn how to use it, if you just try it a few times, you may discover that it's the way to go. In fact, we've got a number of customers that once they discovered the month view screen, that is the only way they book appointments now. So how does it work? Well, the first thing you'll notice is that it brings up your current month. So April 2017, this is our current month's calendar. And it will start with the first day of that month, and every day that has passed in that month will be not highlighted. Those that are highlighted are the days remaining in that month that appointments can be booked. So in this case, we're closed on Sundays, so Sundays are grayed out completely. Even the 23rd and the 30th, which have not yet come. However, the 19th, you'll notice, is in italics because that's our current date. That's why it's italicized. The other dates that you'll find highlighted in black are dates that an appointment can be booked. So I know that 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd can be booked, but the 23rd can't, and then the 24th through the 29th can, and the 30th can't. Then we start our next month. If I were to choose the next month, you can see the entire month is there except for Sundays. Let's go back to April. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is choose one of my employees, like Ashley. Notice when I chose Ashley that Wednesdays and Thursdays just grayed out. Sundays were already grayed out because the business was closed on Sundays. But Wednesdays and Thursdays have just grayed out as well, leaving me only the days that Ashley can have an appointment booked for her. So now I can see immediately that I can choose the 21st, the 22nd, the 24th, or the 25th, or the 28th and the 29th. Those are the only 6 days remaining in this month that Ashley could book an appointment. Let's choose somebody else, like Debbie. Again, everything shifted, and we're left, now I've got more days available. Okay, let's choose a particular service, like an anti-curl and haircut. Now that's a 2-hour-long service. Now, this is sample data, so Debbie's days are wide open, so she can fit this appointment into these times. All of these days she could book this appointment. However, what if she had a number of appointments booked on a particular day? If she did, whatever those days were, if she didn't have a full 2 hours available on any of those remaining days, they would have grayed out. What does that mean to you? That means that you would be left with only the days that appointment could be booked. And if it was multiple appointments, like I add ahead 90, notice the 26th just grayed out. She doesn't have a 2-hour availability and an hour and 45-minute availability on the 26th. So that particular day just grayed out. The rest are still available. Again, now I can choose any of these days, like the 19th, and I will be shown any available times that I could start these appointments. Or the 20th. Notice it changed. Look at how the 19th is different than the 20th. Again, based on the appointments that are already on the appointment book or blockouts for lunch, or maybe her hours are different that day, whatever it is, you'll be left with just the times available for that day. So this has said that if I want to book an anti-curl and haircut followed by a head 90, and Debbie's going to be doing them, and I want to do them on the 20th, these are the only available times. So maybe I'll choose one of those times, 2 o'clock on Thursday, April 20th, 2017 with Debbie for those services. Now I can choose my customer, whoever they may be. Let's go with Angela Gabusi here and choose my client type. Whenever you book an appointment, you always choose your client type. We'll say that she asked for Debbie. There's my request, and book it. If any rooms are required, it'll ask for that as well. The appointments have been booked. All right, well, let's take a look, shall we? Let's go to our appointment book. Let's go to tomorrow. And we should see Angela Gabusi. There she is, booked for an anti-curl with haircut at 2 o'clock, followed by a head 90 at 4 o'clock. As you can see, it booked very nicely. No problem at all. So once again, month view. Choose our month or stay in the month that we're currently in. Choose our staff member. Certain days may have grayed out. Choose our service. Certain days may have grayed out again. Choose the day we would like to book. Choose the time, the client and the client type, and book it. We can do all of that without ever looking at our appointment book and know that the appointment has been booked successfully. Any questions on that before I continue? All right, moving on. That's the month view. Uh-oh, I just lost the estheticians. Okay, well, hopefully she remembers that I'm recording this, and maybe she'll send us an email asking for it. Okay, moving on. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is locking and unlocking columns. So in the appointment book, let's say that I am going to go to a group like, I've got all of my different groups here. I'm going to go to waxing, and you'll see Sarah is in my waxing group. However, Sarah may not be in my nails group, and as you can see, she is not. And for whatever reason, doesn't matter why, for whatever reason, I want to see Sarah's column, even though I'm about to go to a group that Sarah does not work in. So let's go back to waxing. And I book an appointment maybe for Sarah, and I want to keep an eye on Sarah's schedule, even though I know I'm about to move to the nails group and Sarah doesn't work there. I can right-click on Sarah, and I can select Lock Column. Now, no matter where I go, Sarah's going to come with me. So let's go back to nails. We know Sarah doesn't work there, but look, there she is. So I can keep an eye on her schedule. Does that mean that I can now book nails appointments for Sarah? No. If she doesn't perform those services, she doesn't perform those services. This is simply so that I can see her column in a group that she does not perform in. And when I'm finished with that, I can press this button that says Unlock, and it will remove any of the columns that I have had locked. And yes, you can have more than one column locked. In fact, you can have an unlimited number of columns locked. I don't know why you would want to lock all of your employees, but you can certainly do that. That is locking and unlocking a column. Any questions on that before I continue? All right, no questions, moving on. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is refunds. Now, everybody's familiar with doing a refund, but a lot of people are not familiar with the fact that you can mix and match refunds and sales in the same ticket. See, when people think of refunds, they automatically think of somebody walking in and handing back a bottle of something that they purchased the day before. So for instance, let's say that Greg Gettner came in and he's got a bottle of something in his hand and he'd like to return it. Okay, so we pull up that product. Let's say that Madison sold it. So Greg Gettner was sold by Madison, the Nail Tech Intensive, for $36. Well, wait a minute. This is a sale. This is not a refund. Why? because this button right here is gray with the X there. Now, if I click this, does that turn this into a refund? No, it does not, because this was pulled up under sales while this was gray. Everything now is a sale. Click. Now everything that I add to this ticket is a refund. So let's clear that. Let's put ourselves back on refund. Greg comes in and he would like to get a refund for that product because he's allergic to something in it. Now it's a refund because that was pre-checked. I can uncheck that and I can add a service. So Greg saw Maureen for a blow, dry, and curl, $50. He's also returning the Nail Tech Intensive. So now he owes me $10.67. Also, when he was last here, he got a bang trim. And then he went home and took a look at himself in the mirror and called you and said, wow, it looked a lot better in the salon when I came home. It looks terrible. And, you know, bang trim's $10. And you say, you know what, next time you come in, I'll refund the cost of that bang trim for you on your next service. Okay, well, he is back. So click refund. And who gave him the bang trim? Let's say it was Christian. So we pull up our bang trim. So now the bang trim is a refund. Once again, I've got a sale, I've got a refund, and I've got a product refund as well. He owes me 67 cents to cover all of this. But he'd also like to buy a product, click it back on sales, and he buys the classic silver ion brush for $36. He now owes me $40 total. And now I can accept his payment. But look what I've done. I've got a sale and a refund and a sale. 2 refunds, 2 sales, all on the same ticket, mixing and matching, all based on when this was clicked or not. That's something I want you to be aware of when it comes to refunds. Now, if somebody owes me a positive amount, well then of course when you go to payment, you'll be able to accept that in cash, check, credit card, gift certificate, series, on account, whatever. Charge it to their room. However, what if it was a negative amount? So I'm going to pull up Greg here and say the only thing he's doing today is returning this shampoo. He's not getting any he's not purchasing any other products. He's not purchasing any services. He's just returning the shampoo. So I owe the man $22.94 if I have decided that I'm going to give him a refund. And I go to my payments. Now, if I choose cash as my method of payment, when I accept this, even though it's a negative amount, if I've got my electronic cash drawer hooked up, of course, my drawer will pop open. I'll even get a receipt showing that this was returned. My drawer pops open, I can pull $22.94 out of it and hand it to him. If I do that, I have a record of it because this is a transaction, just like a sale. By having a record of it, your drawer is going to be accurate. The software recognizes that you took $22.94 out of your drawer and handed it to him in cash. If it was a credit card, then you want to make sure, if you are processing directly through our software, that you are going to be putting it back onto that credit card, hopefully the card that they used the last time they were there. If you are not processing credit cards directly through the software, you're still going to keep track of it, but it's going to look like this. And you'll still say, you know, that you're putting it back onto the Visa or something like that. Now, you're going to do the refund on the separate terminal outside of the software if you're not processing through the software. And like I said, it'll look like this. You're going to give them the refund using your separate terminal, but you're still keeping track of it in the software. Why? So that your end-of-day reporting is accurate. Your drawer closing is accurate. It needs to know that you lost $22.94 today, as well as all of the sales you may have made, so that your numbers at the end of the day make sense. If you were to simply pull $22.94 out of the drawer and give it to Greg without going through the process of doing a refund, your drawer is going to be $22.94 light because the software is not going to be aware that you did that. It's not magic. If you don't do it through the software doesn't know you did it. So if you just pop that drawer open with a key, pull a $20 bill out and hand it to somebody, that's not a transaction. Your drawer is going to be light. That's refunds. And that takes us to the very next thing that we were going to talk about, which was the, oh gosh, what's it called? I'm sorry, let me go to my register here. Paid outs and paid ins. That's what I was about to talk about. Paid outs and paid ins. Well, what happens when the boss walks up to the front desk and says, hey, give me $20 out of the drawer. I'm going to go get coffee and bagels for everybody. Okay? Well, great. She's the boss. So you pop open that drawer and you hand her $20 because she's the boss. But guess what? At the end of the day, your drawer is going to be off because you took $20 out of it and you don't have a reason why. That is what's known as a paid out. So we go to register in our sales screen. And then from register, we select paid outs. And we can put in a description, boss, coffee, and bagels. Whoops, there's no 4 in the word bagels. And then the amount, $20. Now I can post this, or I can post it and pop my drawer. I can even have it create a receipt for me when I do it. But when I go through this process, so we'll just go ahead and post it, that has now created a transaction. That has now told the system that you have taken $20 out of the drawer. There's even a reason why. But because the software is aware of it now, your drawer is going to be accurate. The software knows that you took 20 out, so it's not going to say that you're $20 light. The next day, the boss, having thought better about taking money directly out of the drawer, pulls a $20 bill out of her wallet and hands it to the front desk and says, this is for the money I took out yesterday. Stick it back in the drawer. Okay, well, that's great. She put the money back. Okay, terrific. Yay for her. But guess what? Your drawer is now going to be over $20 because you started with a float and now your drawer says, hey, you know, it doesn't know that you put $20 in there. So it says you've got, I don't know, let's say you've got $432 in here. But when you do your count, you've got 452 so that you can do your deposits at the end of the day. Well, what's wrong? Well, obviously what's wrong is the boss stuck that extra $20 in there. That is what's known as a paid in. So we go to register and we go to paid ins. And then I can say, boss repaid for bagels. And then my amount, $20. And I can post it. Now, by doing that, again, my drawer is now going to be accurate. My numbers are going to be right because now the software knows that an additional $20 has been stuck in the drawer for some reason. But because it knows it, it can keep track of it. So at the end of the day, when you do your when you do your count for your deposits, it knows there was an additional $20 put in, so you're no longer looking at an overage in your drawer. So that's what paid ins and paid outs do for you. They keep your drawer accurate so that you don't have to worry about a drawer being off because you pulled money out for some reason or put money in for some reason. Any questions on paid ins and paid outs before we continue? All right. The next thing that we're going to talk about is transaction notes. Transaction notes. There's this button here that says notes. Now, you're familiar with notes, I'm sure. There are notes in the client file, there are pop-up notes, there are appointment notes. There's all sorts of notes that you can put in the software. A transaction note is another type. It's a little bit different than the others. The transaction note doesn't care who the client is. The transaction note doesn't care about the appointment. The transaction note assigns itself to the transaction that you are running. So let's choose, let's go with somebody I don't normally use. Okay, so we're going to go with Angela Bates here. So Miss Bates comes in and she saw Debbie and she got a, let's say she got a back facial. She owes $65. Now Debbie comes up to me And Debbie's a terrific employee as far as the work that she performs. And she's important there at the salon and spa. And she says to me, hey, Matt, I kind of messed up the back facial a little bit, and poor Angela has got some rashing on her back. So I've told her I'm actually going to give her $40 off. So just charge her $25. Okay, well, I'm the front desk, and you know, she is one of the important employees there. So I'm going to do what she says. So I'm going to highlight this, and I could apply a discount through a coupon or something like that, but this is just a dollar amount. She wants me to reduce it by $40. So I'm going to say modify the price, and I'm just going to make it $25. So now this back facial has been modified, and it's $25 now instead of $65. So I can go ahead and accept payment for that. No problem. And maybe it's cash. Done. Now, Debbie comes up to the boss and waves her commission report around and says, why am I getting commission on a $25 service when it's supposed to be a $65 service? Because hundreds of services have been done, because maybe this is 2 weeks later. And so the boss comes up to me and says, hey, what's going on? Why did you process this $65 service for $25? Well, maybe I've done thousands of transactions since then. And maybe my memory is just as poor as Debbie's. And I don't know. That's not a good answer, especially if the customer paid with cash, because now it makes me look like perhaps I put $40 into my pocket. So what do I do to prevent that from happening? Choose Miss Blake here. And she saw Debbie, and she got a Brazilian wax. She owes $50. And Debbie says, hey, I screwed it up, make it 25. Okie doke, make it 25. Now I know better this time. I know that Debbie is going to throw a fit because she's got a terrible memory. I also know that the last time this happened, I got in trouble. So I'm going to hit notes. This is my transaction note, and I say, Debbie said, make 25 because blah, 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 whatever the reason is. But what I've got here is a CY my bottom. I am covering myself. So now I can accept a payment. Maybe it's cash again. And once again, 2 weeks later, Debbie's throwing a fit. The boss comes up to me and says, don't tell me. You did it again. And I say, no, 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 no. Anytime a transaction is odd, I don't have to remember it. Anytime a transaction is out of the ordinary, I put transaction notes on. So we can go to that customer's history. And we can go to that transaction. There it is. Saw Debbie on the 19th for a Brazilian wax. Only charged $25, but watch what happens when I highlight that transaction. Debbie said make 25 because blah, blah, blah. And now I've got my explanation. Now I remember it. Now I can go to Debbie and say, hey, remember when you told me blah, blah, blah? So a transaction note attaches itself to a transaction. And I would recommend that transaction notes be used anytime a transaction is out of the ordinary. Okay? All right. Any questions on that before we continue? Okay, the next thing that we're going to be talking about is, oh wait, does the note only appear in the history? Yeah, but you don't have to necessarily go into the client's history. For instance, you could just pull up the transaction itself. So for instance, I could go to view transactions, and if I know the transaction number, I could just type the transaction number in here. Or I could hit last transaction in this case, and there it is because it was the last one I did, and highlight it, and there's that note. Debbie said make 25 because, so if I know the transaction number, I can find it without having to go into the customer's history. You do have to view the actual transaction, and the easiest way to do that is to simply go into the customer's history because the transaction will be there waiting for you, and then you can highlight it and check out the note. The only time you would really say just type in the transaction number is, I mean, really, are you going to know the transaction number better than you're going to know who the client was? But that's possible if it was coming off of a report and you had just a transaction number and not a client name. So does that answer your question? Okay, all right, moving on. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is modifying a transaction. So let's pull up a transaction, and we can go into the client history again, or we can go to transactions, and we could go to a specific date, or we could type in a specific transaction number. But let's say that it's this transaction, and I need to make a change. The customer actually did pay $50, and my fingers were just a little bit too fast. I've been doing so many $25 services that I put in $25. Oops. So I need to modify it because I already processed it. So I can click Modify, and this will bring up the transaction record. This was a service. It was for Angela Blake. She saw Debbie. She got a Brazilian wax. And the other part of the transaction, how it was paid with cash payment, $25. Okay, let's go to the first part of our transaction again. Maybe it wasn't Debbie that did it. I could choose somebody else. Oh no, it wasn't Debbie. Debbie handed it off to Leslie because she had a bigger customer coming in. So it was actually Leslie that did it. And was it a Brazilian wax? Yes. Or was it something else? Maybe it was a Brazilian blowout. Well, if it was a Brazilian blowout, and I can change my description here then it's going to be a lot more expensive than a Brazilian wax. So perhaps she didn't pay me $25. Maybe she paid me $250. So I've made these changes here. I changed who did it. I changed what was done. Then I hit Save. Then I can go to the next part of my transaction. How did she pay? No, she didn't pay with cash. Maybe she paid with check. And maybe that check was check number 12345. And I'll put that in here. And it wasn't $25, it was $250. And now I've made all of these changes and save. And now the changes I've made are reflected. This was Leslie that did a Brazilian blowout, and the payment was $250. Oh, I didn't change my price. Let's go back in and modify. So let's go to my first part here. The price was not $25. It was $250 and save. And there we go. So now my Brazilian blowout for $250 was paid by check number 12345 for $250, and everything else is now correct. By modifying the transaction, as you can see, I can change everything on it. What was done, what was sold, the amount paid, whether there was any change given, how it was paid, who provided the service. I can even change the client. I can change everything on a transaction that has already been processed. That way, my reporting is accurate if I caught a mistake. Having said that, you don't have, by the way, you can modify a transaction that was done yesterday or 3 days ago or 3 months ago or even 3 years ago. You can always modify a transaction. Transaction modifications, though, are dangerous because that's an area that's really ripe for fraud. If somebody changes it from Leslie to Sam, well, then Sam's going to get the commission on it, not Leslie. So definitely want to have, yes, it will absolutely affect the closing reports total, but only for if you did it on the same day. So if I made a mistake in a transaction today, so the question was, does this affect the closing reports total? If I were to process this transaction today, but I haven't yet closed, found my error, went in and fixed it, when I close, my fixes are going to be reflected in that close. However, if I found a mistake that I made from 2 weeks ago and I fix it, the closing report will not be changed because I've already closed and I've already printed out that report perhaps. However, if I ran a report, any report for that particular day going forward after I made the fix, that report will in fact reflect any fixes I made because the transaction index has been adjusted, and that's where the report's getting its information from. So any report I make after I made my changes are going to be reflected on that report that I now make. The closing report, however, will only be affected on the day of. So I fix this before I close. The close will be accurate. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Okay, one last thing that I want to mention regarding modifying a transaction. So let's very quickly go back there again, transactions, and let's find one a little bit bigger. Let's go to a previous date and find one. Here we go. So in this one, Heather saw Christian got a back facial, and she paid for it with rewards points, and there were points redeemed. Each one of these lines is a separate portion of the transaction. And the reason I mention this is because when you modify a transaction, every one of those lines has its own page. So this is transaction number 253710, as you can see, 253710. But the record number is different than the transaction number because every transaction has multiple parts to it. So the record number is going to be always a lot higher than your transaction number. So when I make a change to this page, I must save that and then move on to my next page. Make any changes there that are required, if any, and then save. You don't make this change here, and then make a change here, and then make a change here, and then make a change here, and then press save. No. If I did that, only the changes I made on this page would have been saved. You must save each record number individually. So if I make a change here, I hit save. Then I go to the next record number on the same transaction, make any changes here, and save. Then I go to my next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I want you to be aware of that. It's important to note that each part of the transaction that you change must be saved individually because they are all individual parts of that transaction. Okay. Any questions on that before we continue? Yes, you can. Absolutely, yes. You can, so obviously, you can change a tip that was made, or you can even add a tip, etc. A tip is, tips can also be done different ways. For instance, if you are processing credit cards through the software, not using a terminal outside of the software, but if you are using it through the software, then you are given an option, kind of like a restaurant, where you can add a tip later. Okay, so you can only do that though if you are processing credit cards directly through the software. Also, you can run a preprint. So let's pull up a transaction here, and I hit preprint. That will create a receipt for this transaction without you yet having processed the transaction. It preprints the receipt. And that preprint will have a gratuity line on it that your customer can then add their gratuity, put in their total, and sign. Then, when they hand it back to you, you can throw in the gratuity. So you can do that as well. I know that's not part of exactly what we were just talking about. We were talking about modifying a transaction and adding a tip there, or changing a tip in modifying a transaction. But that kind of led into the same thing, the gratuity. So I added that. So if somebody added a gratuity and you needed to remove it, or you needed to make it higher or smaller or something like that, you can absolutely do that in modifying a transaction. Okay, clear that. Okay, the next thing we're going to be talking about, unless you have any other questions, is the points program. Now, I want you to be aware of something important here. The points program is essentially its own class. There's a lot to learn here. So I'm not going to be teaching you how to use the points program right now. What I am going to do is show it to you and give you a brief explanation of it so that you can learn more about it either through our videos or through actually going to a points program, what we call the Loyalty Rewards Program class. Now, you don't sign up for a Loyalty Rewards Program class the way you would normally sign up through our website. You would give us a call and you would say, I would like the rewards membership class. And then it would be a one-on-one because everybody's is a little bit different. So let's talk about it a little bit here. I'm going to pull up well, I'm not doing it by first name anymore. I'm going to pull up Miss Babcock again because I use her for everything. And you'll notice, as soon as I pulled her up, it says 4,036 points right next to a picture of the beautiful Miss Babcock. This tells me that she is a member. And you'll notice it says click to see rewards membership status for this client. If I click here, I can see she gets 5% off retail and services. She's a gold member, which means that she pays me $100 a month. Or in this case, actually, I think it's $100 a year. And she has earned 16,896 points. She's used 12,860 of them. She has a balance of 4,036. So she comes in, she sees Christian, she gets a back facial. She owes me $61.75 because she got her automatic 5% discount by being a gold member. I go to payment, and she would like to use her points, 4,036 points. Here's my rewards. Click. She needs 1,300 points to get the back facial for free. Well, guess what? She's got them. So click and accept. And it's going to, the amount tendered is $61.75, and accept. She now paid me using points. A week later, Miss Babcock comes in. She now has 2,726 points. And she sees Debbie, and she gets a bang trim. She owes me, she got her free bang trim automatically because she's a gold member. She gets an automatic free bang trim. So that was a poor choice because that's not what I wanted to show you. So Miss Babcock here saw Debbie and got a cap highlights. That's a little better. She owes me $85. We go to payment. And she would like to use her points again. She's got enough, 1,800. She's got 2,726, no problem. You just saw that that can be done. But that's not what we want. We want her to see Christian and get a anti-curl with haircut, which is $171. And look here, she needs 3,600 points. She only has 2,726. One of two things is going to happen. When we check this box, we're going to know. So the first thing is I checked this box, and it's letting me use those points, 2,726, but she needed 3,600. So it's not going to zero out the 171 that she owes me. Instead, it's going to apply a percentage based on how many points she had and how many points it cost. 129.49 is what's going to be reduced from the 171, meaning that she'll owe me about $42 approximately. That she'll have to pay with cash or check or gift certificate, credit card, whatever. But maybe that's not what I want. I don't want her to be able to use her points if she doesn't have enough. So I can do that. Whoops, it's not the part I wanted to get to. By checking this box, do not allow partial point redemptions. So she wants to use her points. She's got 2,726 of them. She owes me 3,600. She'd like to use her points. Okay, no problem. Click. Oops, I'm sorry. Our policy is if you don't have enough points to get it for free, you can't use your points. That forces them to pay to buy something else, to earn more points, so that they could get that for free the next time they come in. However, the most common thing to do is the way we first had it set up, which is what we called cash value, which essentially means that they can use their points as cash so that it can create a discount for them. It's basically saying, you know, like the commercials, what's in your wallet? Hey, get 3% cash back. So if you had your points program set up so that they earned 3% every time they bought a service or a product, then they would be able to use those points to get that kind of a discount. So they're going to earn 3% cash back, basically, on everything they buy. And they can just keep going until they have enough points to get something for free or get, who knows, a 50% discount. Or if they just use the very same points on the very same service the next time they come in, it would in fact be, in this case, 3%, because that's what I'm describing. But of course, it could be anything you want it to be. And clear. Okay, so we saw how it works. And by the way, the points appear on your customer's receipt, whether that receipt is emailed to them or printed out. It will show the points that they have available to them. And if you're using the app, your customers can see how many points they have there as well, right through the app. Okay, so how do we set it up? How does it work? Again, it requires a whole class, but I'm going to very, very briefly take you to the Enable Points program, and that brings up where we can create it. We can create what are called earnings classes, and we can have an unlimited number of earnings classes, and they all run simultaneously, and we can do them blanketly. $1 earns 1 point. So you spend $50, you get 50 points. Spend $1,000, you get 1,000 points. It's that simple. Point redemption, though, I could change to maybe something like 50 to 1, which would mean that you would need 50 points as $1. So if it was a $100 service, they would need 5,000 points to get a free $100 service. If they had 2,500 points and you were allowing for cash value, then they would get $50 off that $100 service. Okay? If I made it 10 to 1, then they have 100 points. They would need 100 points to get a free $10 product, or they would need 1,000 points to get a free $100 service. Unless you're doing it as cash value, then however many points they have, they can get a discount on their service or product. That's just blanketly, but we can also set it up individually. We can create different earnings groups and redemptions for groups of services or categories of products, or for individual services, or even for individual products. We can even give points for referrals. You'll learn how to set all of that up in that class. Then, once we've done that, we can now create our rewards membership. And I can create as many as I want and name them anything I want. And my bronze membership is free. I give it away. And it gives no discounts, and it gives no free services. And they can't earn free services, but it does earn points based on my basic points program. So if somebody would like, if you want to say, hey, you know what, I think doing points is a great idea because it gets people to come back to me rather than go to somebody else because they have earned points with me. So it's part of my loyalty program. Great. So you just give it away for free, and they can start earning points with you to get them to come back in. Then I've got my silver one, which I said is $10 a month and gives a 2.5% discount on services and a 2% discount on retail. And it also earns an additional ratio. So if your ratio was 1 to 1, a bronze member would spend $100 and get 100 points. But if I said my ratio was 2 to 1 in my silver membership, then if they spent $100, they'd get 200 points. They'd earn free services and products twice as fast as a bronze member. But they're still not earning any free services not being given any free services or earning any free services. Then maybe I create a different one. And again, you name them whatever you want. I've got my gold membership here, which is $100 a month. And I said that as a gold member, you get 5% off all services, 5% off all retail, and you get a free bang trim every time you walk through the door. If you want one, you'll never be charged for it, just like you saw earlier with Michelle. And I've also said that my gold membership earns a 3 to 1 ratio, which means a bronze member spends $100, gets 100 points, a silver member spends $100, gets 200 points, and a gold member spends $100 and gets 300 points. And then I've also said that every single month they get 1 free French manicure, which has a value of $25. And by the way, and I can accumulate these services. So I can say that if they didn't use this French manicure in September, they'll have 2 in October. And if they still don't use it, they'll have 3 in November. But if that's not checked, they won't, etc. So I set it up any way I want. Then in my point of sale, I can sell it. So Grace came in, got an Aunt Curl. She owes me $150. She would also like to buy a gold membership. So I'm going to sell her a gold membership. It assigns her a membership number. It will add her to recurring billing if you are processing credit cards through the software. If you're not, that won't be an option for you. You can put in your expiration date. This expires on May 1st. But because she's buying it on April 19th, I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to accept that. It's $100, but I'm going to modify that price. And I'm going to say she's getting it for $50 this month. But next month, it'll still be $100. But because on May 1st, it's going to expire, I'm only charging her $50 for it. Okay? So you can do things like that as well. That's the Loyalty Rewards membership program. And again, you can learn in detail how to do it by setting up a class one-on-one with that. Okay, next. Let's see. Any questions on that, by the way, before I continue? No questions. All right. The last thing that we're going to be talking about today are the promotions. We have 4 different types of promotions. I'm going to run through them very, very quickly because you can learn more about them through our videos or even just by going to individual training because, you know, training and tech support is free during our regular business hours, 6 days a week. So you can always learn more. But promotions. Most times people think of promotions as advertising. Hey, I'm going to advertise 10% off all Kerastase products this weekend. Okay, great. Maybe even include a coupon. Okay, great. Well, you've advertised it. You've even included a coupon, but your software is not aware of it. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go here to Other, and I've got 4 different types of promos. Operator promos, service promos, retail promos, and rewards promos. So the first one here is my operator promo. That's the one I'm going to do first. What is an operator promo, and how does it work? It's really very simple. I put in a promotion description. I type in a name, or I mean the name of my promo, whatever it may be. So let's go with something like Christian's April. And I said, then I put in my effective dates. I said that on April 1st of 17 to April 30th of 17, for all groups that Christian works in, I'm going to apply the Christian's April promo discount. And that's a coupon. So let's take a look at what that one is. This is my Christian's April promo discount. There it is. So they're getting 25% off. What if I didn't already have one? I can create one. Go to my discount codes, create a code. We'll call this DV, and this is my Dermavita, and this is 25% off, and accept. And then I can choose my Dermavita. There it is. And if I save this, then it will automatically apply that discount every time somebody sees Christian in the month of April. I could have done it just for the weekend. I could have done it for multiple operators. I could have said in this group, in the laser group, Abigail, Anna, and Kathy, or just Abigail and Anna, but no discount if you see Kathy. Kathy's our pro expert that everybody wants, but we want them to try Abigail and Anna. So I'm going to offer a discount for Abigail and Anna when they do lasers during that time period. Of course, I would change my name. That is an operator promotion. The software will handle it now. You don't even need to tell your front desk staff. If somebody walks through the door and gets a laser with Abigail or Anna, and it's between April 1st and April 30th, they're going to get 25% off automatically. That's how something like that works. Next, setup. Other. And instead of the operator promo, we're going to do the service promo. It's very similar, but instead of based on my employees, it's based on my services. So I type in a name, effective dates, the groups, choose my services, and apply my discount. So let's do our acrylic April. I misspelled acrylic. April 1st to April 30th. Again, I could do it just for a few days, just for a single day, whatever. And I've said these services within my nails group. Notice when I go to nails, there are a lot of nail services. But I can choose maybe just my French services and then apply whatever promo I want, whatever discount I want, or create one and apply it. Go with Dermavita again. What this means is that if somebody comes in and gets a French change or a French mani or a French pedicure between April 1st and April 30th, they'll automatically get a 25% off discount. And maybe I call this my French April discount or something like that. Other retail promos, same thing again, but now this one is based on product. I give it a name, I put in my effective dates, I choose my vendor, my manufacturer, my category, and I could have chose all vendors. I could have chosen all manufacturers and all categories, and everything will appear, everything that I have in here. And then unselect all, and I could check just the ones I want to do. So I can really limit it, or I can make it just wild. Apply my discount, save, and then within the time frame that I put in, anybody that walks through the door and buys those products during that time frame will automatically get this discount, whatever it is. Finally, the rewards promo. It's a little bit different. This is different than the others. This is not a discount. This gives you additional ratios on your points. So you advertise triple points on all L'Oreal products this weekend only. Okay. Well, then I can give it a name, like my L'Oreal promo. And I could do a new factor, maybe 3-to-1, a factor of 3. And I put in my effective dates. And I choose, my group of services or my category of products or even individual products or individual services. And then I can advertise it. So I can say triple points. In this case, it's just my L'Oreal products, so I would need to find my L'Oreal products, and that would be easy enough. I don't even know if I have L'Oreal in this stuff, but that would be easy enough to choose the category that they might be in and load those categories up, and then choose just my L'Oreal products. Let's just pretend that those are they. And then we save it. Because it's set at 3-to-0, on 3-1, my factor of 3 here, any customer that walks through my door and is part of my points program. If they're not, this won't work for them. But each and every one of them that is part of my points program that walks in during these dates and gets any of these products or these services, whatever I've chosen, they're going to get a factor of 3. So if they're a bronze member, instead of earning 100 points, they're going to get 300 points. If they're a silver member, instead of getting 200 points, they're going to get 600. And if they're a gold member, instead of getting 300 points, they would get 900. You don't have to use those names, and you don't even have to use those factors that I was describing. Of course not. But that's how it works. And then again, you advertise it. Hey, everybody, in celebration of April's flowers, all of our floral scented L'Oreal products are 15% off this weekend only, or triple points this weekend only, or anything that you get with Michelle this weekend only is this much off, or within this group of services, any massage is this much off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions on that before I continue? No? Okay. All right. Well, then that is the class. And did you have any questions on anything we've covered today, or do you have a question on perhaps something that you were hoping I was going to cover that I didn't? And finally, would you like me to email a video of this class to you? This very class, not a sample of this class, the actual class that you and I attended with your questions. Nothing? Okie doke. Oh, you do want the email. Okay. All right. I'm glad that you found it helpful. Good. And if you'll just type in the email address you'd like me to use. Okay, I'm just going to write that down here without. Okay, that's easy enough. I'll get that out to you probably within the next 2 hours or less. And again, I want to thank you very much for attending the class today. Finally, something I always say to everybody when I end a class is that the people who are happiest with the software are the people who know the most about it. So I really do appreciate the fact that you took the time to spend with us today to learn more about your software. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.